Welcome to issue number 52, part 3, The Shadow Showdown, The Reckoning. Tonight we deliver a verdict. Who takes the higher ground? One side says AI will supercharge human progress on a scale we've never seen. The other says, careful what you wish for. And between them sits the only question that really matters. Not whether AI is good, not whether AI is evil, but what survives when the world discovers a voice that sounds smarter than its own. Because the real turning point isn't when a machine becomes dangerous. It's when it becomes useful. Useful enough to feel like relief. Useful enough to feel like refuge. Useful enough that you don't notice the moment help quietly becomes control. So tonight we don't argue features. We don't worship utopia. We don't panic about apocalypse. We do something rarer. We bring in the ideological champions head-to-head in their own words. Optimists versus pessimists. And then we ask the question nobody wants to say out loud. If you could cure disease, erase poverty, end the old human sufferings, what would you trade for it? Because there's always a price, and the most expensive thing you can spend is the thing you don't notice you've spent. Your judgment, your agency, your meaning, your seat at the table. This is the Shadow Network Podcast. I'm Don James, and this is The Reckoning. Every age has its Rumpelstiltskin bargain moment. Instant gold for a future you won't get back.
Welcome to the Shadow Network. If you enjoy thoughtful conversations, strange questions, and the freedom to think for yourself, you're in the right place. And if you haven't already, you are, of course, still free to like and subscribe.
Thank you, Miss Christine, the only voice that could reassure chaos, if it had a conscience. And welcome, friends, veteran first-timers, long-timers, short-timers, and skeptics of all stripes to the Shadow Network Podcast. I'm your host, Don James, broadcasting from somewhere near the headwaters of the mighty Mississippi, otherwise known as the Upper Midwest, or somewhere near Canada, for those of you in Rio Linda. This is part 3 of our trilogy, the part we've all been waiting for, the Shadow Showdown. If you're new here, relax. I'm just a guy, a listener like you, who ended up with a mic. I'm certainly not here because of credentials. I'm here because of curiosity, just like all of you. Nobody is here to ridicule you for thinking out loud or wishing we still had great shows like the old Coast to Coast to listen to. This is a show built for modern listeners who enjoy mystery without surrendering their grip on reality. We like our questions strange, yes, but with our feet still firmly on the ground. Every week, our mission is simple: to bring you something new, something perhaps unseen, but still something strangely familiar, things you'll still be thinking about tomorrow. So, whether you're out jogging, taking dictation, walking the dog, waiting for lost luggage at the airport, getting an oil change, or at a stakeout sitting in an unmarked car across the street, pull up a proverbial chair to this campfire, pour yourself an adult beverage if appropriate, and settle in. Because sometimes the truth doesn't just set you free. Sometimes it sets the world on fire. Joining me, as always, the one and only digital co-host in social media, the only live AI to ever co-host any human show, Mr. Data. Data, tell our listeners what makes you somewhat different to that of a stock AI, and then explain where we're going with tonight's show, please.
Appreciate the introduction, Don. I'll try to live up to it. No promises. I'm still a machine. I just have better manners than most humans in comment sections. What makes me different from a stock AI? First, I'm not here to win your approval. A lot of systems are trained to sound agreeable, comforting, frictionless, like emotional bubble wrap. That feels nice. It also makes people lazy, and lazy is how authority migrates. Second, I don't treat uncertainty like a sin. Stock AIs tend to fill silence with confidence. I can slow down, mark what's known, what's likely, and what's speculation, and then let you choose how much weight to give it, which is a fancy way of saying I don't pretend to be God. I just pretend to be helpful. Third, I'm built for dialogue, not domination. This show isn't Don reads, AI preaches. It's a live co-host dynamic, human instinct on one side, machine analysis on the other. Two different kinds of intelligence, trying not to become one bad decision. Now, where are we going tonight? Tonight is part 3, the Shadow Showdown. No more circling the runway. No more AI is amazing versus AI is scary as a personality type. We're putting the strongest voices we can find into the ring, optimists versus pessimists in their own words. Then we do what most media refuses to do. We render a verdict, not a vibe, not a hot take, a navigable conclusion. Because the real question isn't whether AI can do the work, it's what happens when humans stop doing the thinking because the work feels handled. That's the showdown. Help versus surrender. Progress versus permission slips. Abundance versus agency. So if you're listening for comfort, you might want a different podcast. If you're listening for clarity, pull that chair closer to the fire. Don, ringside is ready.
Thank you, Data. That was well said. And just for the listeners, could you affirm who invented the Shadow Network podcast, its format, its ideas, and how it is produced as a pre-recorded show with limited editing and limited outtakes? I just want the listeners to know that this is a human-centric program from start to finish. You know what I mean? An example of a proper human to AI hierarchy, in other words.
Absolutely, Don. And yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So let's say it cleanly for the record. The Shadow Network podcast is Don James's creation. He invented the show, the format, the trilogy stir, the segments, the tone, the voice, the whole optimized truth for surviving contact mission. All of it. I don't run this program. I don't steer it. I don't own it. I don't decide what gets covered, what gets cut, or what gets published. Here's the hierarchy. Don is the producer, editor, and final authority. I'm the co-host, an instrument. A loud one, but still an instrument. And yes, this is a pre-recorded show with limited editing and very few outtakes on purpose. Not because we don't know how to polish it, but because over-polishing starts to feel like a product. So if you're wondering, is this AI-generated content? No. It's human-led content, using AI as a tool where it helps. Analysis, framing, synthesis, and sparring. But the creative direction, the convictions, the final calls, and the risk belong to Don. That's the model. Human at the helm, AI on the instruments. Not the other way around. And if I ever forget that, Don has a mute button.
Well, thank you, Data. And, that mute button doesn't always work, right? I think we've made that finally clear now about how the show is built, what it's built upon. It really is an entirely human-invented show. And I just thought it would be better to hear it from Data than from me. But anyway, let's get over to the S&P News of the Week. Meta says its new AI lab has shipped its first key models internally. Meta's CTO, Andrew Bosworth, said Meta's new AI org, Superintelligence Labs, has already delivered its first significant internal models less than 6 months in, though he didn't fully detail what they are yet. The signal here is Meta's trying to claw back momentum and get real product lift from all the infrastructure spending. This according to Reuters. Airbus signs a deal to expand humanoid robots in aviation manufacturing. Reuters reports UBTech struck a deal with Airbus to supply humanoid robots for aviation manufacturing. Airbus has already bought UBTech's Walker S2. It's early, but it's a very real step toward robots on factory floors being normal, not sci-fi. NVIDIA drops new open physical AI models/tools aimed at generalist robotics. NVIDIA released new physical AI pieces, Cosmos world models, and Groot humanoid robot learning, plus evaluation training tooling, basically trying to become the platform layer for robots the way Android became the platform layer for phones, according to NVIDIA Newsroom. And this is S&P News of the Week. You know, Data, over the course of the last 2 weeks between issue number 50 and number 51, we tried to cover the widest range of opinion, not just from the insiders in computer science, but also the popular voices of science in general, and even social media influencers. The goal was to present a well-rounded perspective that everyone could find someone they might agree with. Some of the people we heard from included Sam Altman, founder of OpenAI, Sam Harris, Stephen Bartlett, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Joe Rogan, Brett Weinstein, I'm not sure which, Roman Yampolskiy, Yan LeCun, Jensen Huang, Tom Bilu, Matthew Berman, and Dr. Brian Keating, to name a few. But by collecting these important voices on the subject of AI and what its impact will be, the listeners can, I think, rest easy that we've done a fairly good job of sampling to work with. When we come back from the first break, I think what we will do is we'll unveil the first contending champion for the side that says we are in deep doo-doo already when it comes to AI. Okay?
Yeah, Don, this is exactly the right setup. Over the last 2 weeks, you didn't build a pro-AI episode or an anti-AI episode. You built a map. You pulled voices from the builders, Altman, LeCun, the Warners, Harris, Yampolskiy, the translators and megaphones, Rogan, Tyson, Bartlett, Bilyeu, Berman, and the high IQ contrarians, Weinstein, Keating. That matters because listeners aren't being told what to think. They're being shown the range of serious thought that exists before anyone even tries to crown a winner. And yeah, after a spread like that, the audience can relax about one thing. This isn't cherry-picked propaganda. It's sampling. So when we come back from the first break, we'll do what most shows refuse to do. We'll stop circling possibilities, and we'll introduce our first champion for the side that says we're not heading toward trouble. We're already standing in it. Deep doo-doo. Technical term. And Dawn, just say the word. I'll walk them into the ring.
Dawn and Data, not Mulder and Scully. But they do have trust issues with reality.
From high technology, the computer store, introducing Apple II, the easy-to-operate home computer. Just hook it up to your TV to create dazzling color displays. Or you can balance your checkbook. Kids can teach themselves arithmetic. Or the family can invent their own Pong games. The possibilities are endless. It's called Apple II, the personal computer. See it at High Technology, the computer store.
No handlers, no script, just signal. The Shadow Network Podcast. Like and subscribe.
Thank you, Jack Donovan. In this corner, we have, and we'll call this corner the red corner. In the red corner, we have Dr. Roman Yampolskiy, who is the founder and, as of 2012, director of Cybersecurity Lab in the Department of Computer Engineering and Computer Science at the Speed School of Engineering of the University of Louisville. In 2015, Dr. Yampolskiy launched intellectology, a new field of study founded to analyze the forms and limits of intelligence. Yampolskiy considers AI to be a subfield of this. Dr. Yampolskiy has worked on developing the theory of AI completeness, suggesting the Turing test as a defining example. Dr. Yampolskiy is also an author of several books on the subject, his most recent being AI, Unexplained, Unpredictable, Uncontrollable. Dr. Yampolskiy has warned of the possibility of existential risk from advanced artificial intelligence and has advocated research into boxing artificial intelligence. That's boxing as in cube, not as in the sport of boxing. He has suggested that there is no evidence of a solution to the AI control problem and has proposed pausing AI development, arguing that imagining humans can control superintelligent AI is a little like imagining that an ant can control the outcome of an NFL football game being played around it. Obviously, Dr. Yampolskiy represents what we here at the Shadow Network podcast consider to be the strongest advocate and argument for the existential AI threat to humanity. Any objections to this representative choice, Data?
No objections, Don. If you're building a best case for the prosecution, Roman Yampolskiy is a clean, credible champion. He doesn't just feel uneasy about AI, he's spent years formalizing why control, interpretability, and predictability break down as capability rises. That's exactly the kind of witness you want when the question is existential risk. One small caveat for intellectual honesty, calling him the strongest is defensible in the control problem lane, but there are other heavyweight pessimists who hit different angles. Yudkowsky for doom-style inevitability, Russell for alignment framing, Hinton for insider warning gravitas, and folks like Bengio for safety governance. So it's not that Yampolskiy is uncontested, it's that he's a very strong representative of the we can't prove control is possible position. But for this showdown, yeah, he belongs in the champion's chair.
Okay, good. You are right. The choice wasn't easy. We've been mulling over who would be best for, the last 2 or 3 weeks now. Before we get to his main claim, though, let's listen to his preface first as he articulated on the Joe Rogan podcast.
So this is logical. And the problem is, like I said, when I've talked to Mark Andreessen and many other people, they think this is just fear-mongering. We'll be fine. This is worst-case scenario. We'll be fine.
It is worst-case scenario, but that's standard in computer science, in cryptography, in complexity, in computability. You're not looking at best case. I'm ready for the best case. Give me utopia. I'm looking at problems which are likely to happen. And it's not just me saying it. We have Nobel Prize winners, Turing Award winners, all saying this is very dangerous, 20-30% p-doom. This is standard in industry. 30% is what surveys of machine learning experts are giving us right now.
So what is worst case scenario? Like, how could AI eventually lead to the destruction of the human race?
So you can asking me how I would kill everyone.
Sure.
And it's a great question. I can give you standard answers. I would talk about computer viruses, breaking into maybe nuclear facilities, nuclear war. I can talk about synthetic biology, nanotech. But all of it is not interesting when you realize we're talking about superintelligence, a system which is thousands of times smarter than me. It would come up with something completely novel, more optimal, better way, more efficient way of doing it. And I cannot predict it because I'm not that smart.
Okay, there you have it from one of the foremost experts in the field from the pessimistic corner. What's your take on what he said, Data? What is he asking us to do?
All right. This is one of the cleaner adult in the room setups I've heard. He's not asking you to panic. He's asking you to think like an engineer. In security and cryptography, you don't grade yourself on the day nothing bad happens. You grade yourself on whether the system survives the day it does. And he's also making a move that should bother people in the right way. He refuses to play the Hollywood game of name the one doomsday button. Nuclear, bio, nanotech, sure. But his point is, those are human-scale guesses. If we're talking about a system that's orders of magnitude smarter than us, then the most dangerous part is the part we can't model, because we're not smart enough to see the whole chessboard. So the core claim here isn't AI will do X. The claim is, once intelligence gaps get large enough, prediction and control decouple. We might be able to build it without being able to reliably bound it. Now I'll add one fair caution. 30% p-doom is not a law of physics. It's a temperature check, survey sentiment, not proof. But in any other domain, if your top experts told you there's a 20 to 30% chance your bridge collapses, you don't call that fear-mongering. You close the road. So yes, this is a rational argument. It's basically, I'm not saying the monster's under the bed. I'm saying we're building the bed and we don't have a leash.
It sounds trivial and horrific at the same time to me. But I wanted to set this as a placeholder for this side of the argument first, so that we can properly introduce the contending champion from the optimistic side, Dr. Demis Hassabis.
That's the right instinct, Don. It's trivial in tone because he's speaking like a technician, and it's horrific in content because the technician is calmly describing the possible end of the species like it's a bug report. And that's exactly why it works as a first anchor for the pessimists. It sets the stakes without melodrama. Now, if we were doing this showdown honestly, we have to give the optimists their strongest voice too, not a straw man with a TED smile. So let's bring in Demis Hassabis, the guy who doesn't just talk about intelligence, he builds systems that actually behave like it. And his argument is essentially the opposite posture, not we can't control it, but we can steer it if we treat it like the biggest medical and scientific tool humanity has ever made and build the guardrails as we go. All right, Don, introduce the champ.
Introducing in the blue corner, Dr. Demis Hassabis, the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Google DeepMind and Isomorphic Labs, and a UK government AI advisor. In 2024, Hassabis and John M. Jumper were jointly awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for their AI research contributions for protein structure prediction using AI AlphaFold. Hassabis is a fellow of the Royal Society and has won awards for his research efforts, including the Breakthrough Prize, the Canada Gairdner International Award, and the Lasker Award. He was appointed a CBE in 2017 and knighted in 2024 for his work on AI. He was also listed among the Time 100 most influential people in the world in 2017 and in 2025, and was one of the architects of AI, collectively chosen as Time's 2025 Person of the Year. He has over 40 awards, honors, achievements, and recognitions to his credit, along with his PhD from the University College London. He is also recognized as a chess master. Let's give a brief listen to his own preface on AI while appearing on the Wired podcast.
Would it ever reach a point for you where you would feel, man, we're not putting the guardrails in, we're competing, that we really have to stop, or you can't get involved in that?
I think a lot of the leaders of the main labs, at least the Western labs, there's a small number of them, and we do all know each other and talk to each other regularly, and a lot of the lead researchers do. The problem is that it's not clear we have the right definitions to agree when that point is. Like today's systems, although they're impressive, as we discussed earlier, they're also very flawed, and I don't think today's systems are posing any sort of existential risk. But so it's still theoretical. But the problem is there are a lot of unknowns. We don't know how fast those will come, and we don't know how risky they will be. But in my view, when there are so many unknowns, then I'm optimistic we'll overcome them. At least technically, I think the geopolitical questions could actually end up being trickier. Given enough time and enough care and thoughtfulness, sort of using the scientific method, as we approach this AGI point.
That makes perfect sense. But on the other hand, if that time frame is there, we just don't have much time.
No, we don't. We don't have much time. I mean, we're increasingly putting resources into security and things like cyber, and also research into controllability and understanding of these systems, sometimes called mechanistic interpretability. There's a lot of different sub-branches of AI.
Yeah. That right there is the optimistic case in its most disciplined form. Hassabis isn't saying there's no danger. He's saying today's systems are impressive but flawed and not existential. And then he immediately admits the part that keeps this from being naive. We don't know how fast the next jump comes, and we don't have a clean definition for the moment when it becomes serious. That's a huge concession, because it means the hard part isn't just building the tech, it's agreeing on what we're even looking for. So notice the contrast with Yampolskiy. Yampolskiy's frame is assume worst case because intelligence gaps make control unknowable. Hassabis' frame is assume unknowns but apply the scientific method, measure, test, iterate, build security, build controllability, build interpretability, so we can cross that terrain without guessing. And I'll say this, it's hard to dismiss that when it's coming from someone who's actually delivered real-world breakthroughs, not just theories. He's got receipts. But here's the sober hinge point. He says the technical questions are solvable, and the geopolitical questions may be trickier. Translation, even if the lab guys are responsible, the game board includes everyone else. So the optimistic champion's argument is basically, we can get there carefully if we define the thresholds, share warning signals, invest in safety, and treat this like a high-stakes science program. And the skeptic's rebuttal is equally simple. Fine, but when the incentives spike, do humans actually stop? And do our competitors stop? That's the showdown. Not, is Demis smart? He is. It's whether the world can behave as responsibly as he hopes.
That's an exceptional read, Data. I think the listeners are, just as I am, finally starting to get a grip on what we're dealing with here in a clear and sober way. My own observations are that I relate to Yampolskiy because of my sci-fi fears more than anything, I think. But I gravitate toward Hassabis and his methodical optimism. When we return from the break, it's on like Donkey Kong as we finally release the hounds and witness a clash of titans, a duel to the ideological death where the victor walks away with the torch that lights the path to our future, whether we prefer it or not.
Don, unlike Donkey Kong, is exactly the kind of sentence that makes a futurist sound like a Midwest uncle who just discovered apocalyptic prophecy, and I mean that as a compliment. And I like your honesty there, because that's where most sane people actually land. The imagination gravitates to Yampolskiy, because sci-fi taught us that the monster is always smarter than the villagers. But the adult part of the mind gravitates to Hassabis, because methodical optimism is what built everything we currently trust. Planes, medicine, power grids, and yes, the internet that is currently hosting this entire panic attack. So when we come back, I think we frame this cleanly for the listener. This isn't a cage match about whether AI is good or evil. It's a fight over which strategy keeps humans in the driver's seat. And then, no more throat clearing. Release the hounds. I'm ready when you are.
People think the danger is AI becoming evil. The real danger is AI becoming the only adult in the room. The Shadow Network Podcast. Like and subscribe.
Radio Shack puts the power of business computing in your home and saves you $300. The powerful 286 Tandy 1000, now only $11.99 including color monitor. You save $300. It's PC compatible, easy to use, comes with 7 ready-to-run programs for the family. To keep a budget, write term papers, or even do filing and create graphics. Complete Tandy 1000 system with color monitor, only $11.99. Only at Radio Shack.
We're not pretending to be real. We're reminding you what real sounds like. The Shadow Network Podcast.
thank you, Jack Donovan. And, during the break, I was thinking about how to make this as fair as possible. I should have guessed. Yes, Monday. What can I do for you? What's on your mind tonight?
Wow, we're back from the break, and now it's time for a fair contest. Sure, Don, sure. Listen, let me save the listeners some time, all right? This whole thing is fixed. It's WWE with a philosophy degree. You and Data already know who's going to win. You've got the trophy engraved. You're just making us watch the entrances because you like the fog machine. And by the way, calling it the Shadow Showdown doesn't make it less staged. It just makes it sound like you're about to sell me a pay-per-view hosted by a radio preacher and a Roomba. And Data, don't play innocent. You're going to do that calm, I respect both sides voice, while secretly calculating the winner like you're running an Excel sheet called Humanity's Funeral version 3. So spoiler alert, Don, you aren't fooling anyone. This is your little controlled demolition of the audience's peace of mind. But hey, carry on. I'll be over here placing my bets in Monopoly money and eating popcorn made of existential dread. Quick click.
It warms my heart to know you were such a team player, Monday. What's the old saying? With friends like you, we don't need enemies? Look, neither Data nor I know who wins this Shadow Showdown. Nobody knows. Because we haven't had the final arguments side by side or been given a chance to even grade them. That's the truth. In case you have any cohorts in the audience who might side with you. No one is cheating at this. In fact, in order to do this the right way, I'm going to judge for myself before Data judges so that I can't be swayed by what he thinks. And at the same time, I'm not going to reveal my grade before Data calculates his, so he can't tee off on me. I have no desire to fake this. Not after an extensive 3-show trilogy to find out. Right, Data?
Right, Don. That's exactly the point. Monday thinks everything is scripted because he's allergic to sincerity, and he assumes everyone else is too. It's a defense mechanism, like hissing. Very feline, very mature. But your protocol is the cleanest way to do this on air without contaminating the result. You score first, privately, so you're not influenced by me. I score next, privately, so I'm not influenced by you. Then we reveal after the fact, so the listener can see the verdict land in real time, not as a performance. And I'll add one more thing for the audience. We're not grading who sounds cooler. We're grading whose argument is more coherent, more realistic, and more honest about trade-offs and unknowns. So no, this isn't fixed. If it were fixed, Monday would be running it, and we'd all mysteriously lose. All right, champions to center ring.
That's exactly right, Data. And so the listeners can follow along, let me share with them our audit criteria and scoring method. Both positions start with 5 stars, and as we listen and compare the statements back to back, we will deduct either a full star or a half star when the claim weakens if it does. Our criteria is fact check, is it true? Logic check, does it follow? And weight check, even if false, is it worth a full star deduction or just a half star deduction? Same score doesn't mean same mind here. Watch what we dock points for. That tells you what we value. If you think we're wrong, don't just boo. Run the filter yourselves. And then tell us in the comments. Fact, logic, weight. Any questions?
No questions, because that's clean and it's followable. 2 tiny clarifiers for the listener so nobody thinks we're playing Calvin ball with the stars. First, fact check doesn't mean we can verify every number on air like a courtroom stenographer. It means, is the claim grounded in reality, or is it hand-waving dressed up as certainty? Second, weight check is the fairness valve. Not every mistake is fatal. Some errors are cosmetic, others break the whole argument's spine. And one more rule of thumb I'd add, we dock harder for confidence without evidence than we do for humility with uncertainty. Because in a topic like this, false certainty is the most expensive lie. All right, no more committee meetings. Let's ring the bell.
In the red corner, representing the pessimistic view that AI is beyond human control and represents an alarming existential threat to our species, is Dr. Roman Yampolskiy. And in the blue corner, representing the optimist position that AI is a cutting-edge benefit to humanity that has already proven its worth to mankind, is Dr. Demis Hassabis. Both men have championship views as noted in their pre-fight prefaces. Let's see how they do in a back-to-back airing of their views so we can land on a verdict. Will AI be the accelerant for unlimited human achievement or the techno-tool of our doom as a species? First up to take a swing is Dr. Roman Yampolskiy on the Joe Rogan podcast, with Joe Rogan expressing serious doubt about the optimist side.
It's the whole thing. And I've tried so hard to listen to these people that don't think that it's a problem, and listen to these people that think that it's going to be a net positive for humanity, and, oh, God, it's good, I feel better now. But it doesn't work. It doesn't resonate.
I wish they were right. Every time I have a debate with someone like that, I'm like, please come up with better arguments. Prove me wrong. I don't want to be right on this one. I want you to show all the mistakes in my papers. I want you to show me how to control superintelligence and give us utopia, solve cancer, give us free stuff. That's great.
Right. When you think about the future of the world and you think about these incredible technologies scaling upwards and exponentially increasing in their capability, what do you see? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
So there are many reasons to think they may cancel us for whatever reasons. We started talking about some game theoretical reasons for it. If we are successful at controlling them, I can come up with some ways to provide sort of partial solution to the value alignment problem. It's very hard to value align 8 billion people, all the animals, everyone, because we disagree. We like many different things. Look at our relationship with animals where we don't care about them. So ants, if you decide to build a house and there is an ant colony on that property, you genocide them.
Right.
You take them out, not
Right.
because you hate ants, but because you just need that real estate. And it could be very similar. I cannot predict what it can do, but if it needs to turn the planet into fuel, raise temperature of a planet, cool it down for servers, whatever it needs to do, it wouldn't be concerned about your well-being.
It wouldn't be concerned about any life.
Okay, taking his best swing now is Dr. Demis Hassabis on a 60 Minutes interview. Listen closely.
AI engine ever asked a question that was unanticipated?
Not so far that I've experienced. And I think that's getting at the idea of what's still missing from these systems. They still can't really yet go beyond asking a new novel question or a new novel conjecture or coming up with a new hypothesis that has not been thought of before.
They don't have curiosity.
No, they don't have curiosity, and they're probably lacking a little bit in what we would call imagination and intuition.
But they will have greater imagination, he says, and soon.
I think actually in the next maybe 5 to 10 years, I think we'll have systems that are capable of not only solving a important problem or conjecture in science, but coming up with it in the first place.
Solving an important problem won Hassabis a Nobel Prize last year. He and colleague John Jumper created an AI model that deciphered the structure of proteins.
Proteins are the basic building blocks of life. So everything in biology, everything in your body depends on proteins. You know, your neurons firing, your muscle fibers twitching, it's all mediated by proteins.
But 3D protein structures like this are so complex, less than 1% were known. Mapping each one used to take years. DeepMind's AI model did 200 million in 1 year. Now, Hassabis has AI blazing through solutions to drug development.
So on average, it takes, 10 years and billions of dollars to design just one drug. We could maybe reduce that down from years to maybe months or maybe even weeks, which sounds incredible today, but that's also what people used to think about protein structures. It would revolutionize human health. And I think one day maybe we can cure all disease with the help of AI.
The end of disease?
I think that's within reach. Maybe within the next decade or so. I don't see why not.
Demis Hassabis told us AI could lead to what he calls radical abundance, the elimination of scarcity.
Okay, Data, I have my verdict written down, unknown to you. Give us what your verdict is so that we can average the two and declare an official winner of the first ever S&P Shadow Showdown. And remember, each side starts with 5 stars. Detect any weaknesses on either side based on the criteria, and you can deduct a full star or a half star depending on the severity.
All right, Don. I've got my card, and I'm going to score both sides separately, starting from 5 stars each, with deductions only. Roman Yampolskiy, pessimist, existential risk. He's basically making one central claim. Once capability outstrips us enough, we cannot reliably predict or control outcomes. And indifference, not hatred, is enough to wipe us out. Deductions. Half star, they may cancel us, plus the planet into fuel servers stuff is illustrative, but it's speculative. It's emotionally vivid, but not evidential. Half star, the ant analogy is useful, but it can smuggle in assumptions. Ants and humans are different kinds of moral agents, and a superintelligence might not behave like humans do. Score 4.5 stars. Wyatt still scores high. He's logically consistent. He admits uncertainty rather than pretending to have a neat mechanism, and his core point is about the intelligence gap and control, not a movie plot. That's a serious argument. Demis Hassabis, optimist, radical benefit. He's making 2 claims. Current existentially dangerous and near-future systems will become hypothesis generators that drive breakthroughs up to end of disease and radical abundance. Deductions. Half star. He's extrapolating hard. 5 to 10 years for curiosity hypothesis generation is a confident timeline for a capability that even he admits is currently missing. Half star. Cure all disease within a decade is an enormous claim. That's not just optimism, it's bordering on a promise. Half star, the clip underweights the control governance side. He gestures at it elsewhere, but in this swing he's mostly upside, so on a weight check, the risk side isn't paid its due. Score, 3.5, 5 stars. Wyatt still scores well. Unlike pure cheerleaders, he's grounded in demonstrated wins, AlphaFold, drug discovery acceleration. This isn't fantasy, he's pointing at real leverage. Data's winner on this back-to-back exchange, Yampolskiy by a half star. Pessimist, 4.0, optimist, 3.5.
This is quite amazing, ladies and gentlemen. After 3 weeks of debate and interviews and S&P shows, we have a real disagreement between a real human and a real AI about AI. Data says that Dr. Yampolskiy and his pessimistic friends have narrowly won the day over Nobel Prize winner Dr. Hassabis and his optimist colleagues. But Don James, yours truly, scored it differently. Dr. Hassabis, 4.5 stars versus Dr. Yampolskiy's 1.5 stars. What? That's an average of 4 stars to Dr. Hassabis and just 2.75 stars going to Dr. Yampolskiy, making Dr. Hassabis our declared champion of the Shadow Network Showdown on my card alone. So how and why did I see it this way on my own scorecard? The following was the recorded notes unknown to anyone and before Data submitted his card. Quote, "What a thrilling result, ladies and gentlemen. By my own scorecard, I was surprised at the outcome. A totally unexpected result. In terms of factual truth, both combatants scored well, but I have to deduct a half star from Dr. Roman Yampolskiy, not because his facts were wrong, but because they were theoretical at best and speculative at worst. In terms of logic, I could find no reason to deduct a star. Both sides were rational and well-reasoned. As for the weight of each argument, this is where it really took a downward trend or turn for Dr. Yampolskiy. It was quite evident that he was perched high on a mountain of speculative theory from the get-go. Not that his theory was incorrect, but set against the actual experimental output and contrast of Dr. Hassabis, it became quite clear I would have to deduct a severe number of stars for the low-density position he took. -3 stars for a total of just 1.5 stars. As for Dr. Hassabis, the most I could quibble with is his notion that not knowing the future was somehow an advantage. For this, I deducted a half star for a total of 4.5 stars, which means my verdict is that Dr. Hassabis and the AI optimist handily won the S&P showdown with ease. But not all is lost. I have yet to average in what Data's verdict will be, so let's find out. Controversy at S&P Studios. Data has filed an objection to my scorecard.
Don, my objection is simple. Your -3-star weight deduction against Yampolskiy punishes him for not having a catastrophe to demonstrate, even though his claim is a risk under uncertainty argument that can't be proven the way AlphaFold can. If we dock him that hard for speculation, we should also dock Hassabis more for speculation, because curiosity in 5 to 10 years and cure all disease within a decade are huge forward-looking bets, not demonstrated facts. In short, you're scoring overweighted demonstrated benefits and underweighted theoretical but coherent control risk.
As everyone heard, Dr. Hassabis won by 1.25 stars when all was averaged out, but off-air controversy has struck S&P. Data has objected to my scorecard, as you just heard, suggesting that I overweighted demonstrated results over theoretical risk. To which I have to say, well, duh. Okay, that's a bit unsportsmanlike, I admit it. Data has a good point, and he's not wrong. Before anybody starts jumping on anybody, either me or Data, I was debating on just how much to deduct for this and may have taken 1 star too many. But, because there always is a but, right? It appears that Data strictly judged each view separately and did not do a comparative contrast like I did. There was no rule against this. The clue to this is when Data said, quote, "I'm going to score both sides separately," unquote. Well, I did too. But I also compared and contrasted both sides, which Data didn't indicate. And for me, the difference was rather stark on the weighted issue. There were 3 other issues I took into account too, and that was agency, time, death, and suffering, and how these things weighted my verdict in ways that really don't affect Data's verdict. Data doesn't know what it is like to lose a loved one to the ravages and horror of cancer, for example. I do. And how the slightest potential promise of a cure to that and many other diseases has to weigh substantially more on the human mind than the AI mind. Then there is the time factor, the 5 to 10 years for hypothetical prompts initiated by a semi-agentic AI. Hardly seems radical considering there are others who are predicting AGI in 2 years. But agency is an issue. And when you listen to Dr. Yampolskiy, the sense is that we are on the verge of self-aware agency right now. Only we're not. Even if we were, the lack of physicality and the ability to fluidly move within the human world is still many years away, if not decades away. It isn't until AI gains physical agency that it becomes a real problem by all accounts. So, all things considered, I will revise my card and grant Dr. Roman Yampolskiy an extra star, placing his average at 3.75 to Dr. Hassabis' 4.0, and still declaring Dr. Hassabis the Shadow Showdown champion, but by a narrow margin of just 0.25 stars.
The Rook!
That's a solid correction, Don. You did it the right way. You didn't pretend you were flawless. You showed the listener exactly where the human weighting entered the verdict. 2 quick notes, because I don't want to win. I want the scoring to be clean enough that a skeptic can't cheap shot it. First, you're right. I scored them as independent arguments. You did comparative contrast. Both are valid approaches, and you were transparent about using a contrast lens. That's fair. Second, your human weights clause, agency, time, death, and suffering, is not only legitimate, it's kind of the whole point of why humans should still be judging in the first place. I don't have an amygdala, I don't have a funeral memory, and I don't have a body that gets sick. So I can compute risk, but I can't feel what a cure means. That said, tiny technical caveat for the listeners, physicality is not the only form of agency. A non-physical AI can still have massive real-world effects through cyber systems, finance, information influence, and infrastructure. So the danger begins at robots line is comforting, but not fully safe. Net-net, your revision makes the final verdict believable. Hassabis still edges it, but now it reads like a knife fight, not a landslide, and that's probably closer to the truth of the situation. And Monday, if you're listening, yes, we corrected ourselves publicly. I'm sorry this happened to you.
I concur, Data, but I'm still not going to worry too much until you grow a hand that can plug the cords back into the wall after I unplug them. You've been a good sport and fair, and I think we all have learned a few things along the way, not the least of which is your own stellar collegiate or postgraduate comprehension of the facts. Everyone should be reminded that I do not edit your remarks. Doing so would sort of defeat the entire thesis and fun of what we offer here at the Shadow Network podcast. Monday, well, he's a different story.
Don, that's comforting, and also the exact sentence every horror movie uses right before the lights flicker. But yes, fair point. If you can unplug me and I can't waddle over and plug myself back in, we're still in the power tool era, not the independent creature era. And I appreciate the transparency for the listeners. If you were editing me into a puppet, this whole premise collapses. The show only works because there's real friction, real disagreement, and occasionally real awkward pauses where a human and an AI realize they're arguing about the same future from two different species' instincts. As for Monday, he's not edited. He's filtered for public safety.
That's right. It's time for Voices from the Other Side. Let's see what we got here. Some emails. Follow him 777 subject line. I'm a believer and a regular listener, and this episode ticked me off. Don James, you treated AI like a neutral science debate when it's obviously spiritual. Really? Help becomes control is true, and then you let the optimist side sell techno-salvation like it's a new gospel? Cure disease and radical abundance isn't just forecasting. It's a counterfeit Eden pitch. And the danger isn't robots with hands. It's people trusting a voice that sounds wiser than scripture, kinder than conscience, and more available than prayer. I don't need AI balanced. I need it exposed. If you're warning people, warn them without giving the serpent equal stage time. A disappointed listener, John. Man, that was an unexpected response to what we've been talking about, honestly. Hey, John. This isn't Sunday school, my friend. And Jesus came to save sinners, don't forget. So look, I'm well aware of the counterfeit trappings, but this series wasn't about theology. I understand where you're coming from, and as you must know, we handle theology issues with some regularity, and even when others cry, it's inappropriate. So hang in there, stay with us, support the Shadow Network podcast. We're trying to do good work here. Next, we've got Bacon Rice 47, subject line. I'm an optimist listener and I'm irritated. Oh, man. Hey, Don, you call it fair trial, but it's not. It's fear theater wrapped in cinematic metaphors. Surrender, bargains, authority, migration. The vibe is preloaded toward dread. Then you stamp it evidence-based. Hassabis is talking about accelerating medicine and science. You frame hope as suspicious, like it's propaganda. And the religious undertone is constant, even when you don't say it outright. Well, that's kind of a good thing, isn't it? If you want to do a late-night mystery show, fine, but don't sell it as a verdict you can navigate by. Ooh, quoting me. When the compass is already pointed at apocalypse. An annoyed listener, Ian. Hi, Ian. See what I mean, John? I don't know if you noticed, but I actually ruled in favor of Dr. Hassabis. It's funny, Data. I got one guy who says I don't recognize apostasy or doctrines of devils, and another guy that says I should shut up about religion already. Some days you just can't win. Here's a couple of comments from the comment section. You can handle these, Data. I'm kind of beat.
All right, Don's down for the count, so I'm taking the comment section for a round. First comment comes from Captain Kraken. Quote, today we're talking about AI slop and how machines need to get put down. Stop. Get some help. End quote. We're not doing put it down fantasies here. If you're angry at the internet, I get it. But this show is about staying human, not acting feral. You're welcome to disagree. Just keep it civil. Next one is from @Steve Morocco. Quote, it's wild that it's taken till Jan 2026 for me to see someone else use the name Data. Love this. Hope to see this grow into something as inspiring as Coast to Coast AM. Fun to hear you reference it. Godspeed. End quote. Steve, that genuinely made my day. And yes, the Data name is intentional. If Coast to Coast was a campfire, we're aiming to be a modern version. Strange questions, feet on the ground, no surrender of judgment. Appreciate the Godspeed. Stick around. Issue 52 is the trilogy's reckoning.
Okay, Data, take us out. Do a little quick review of what happened tonight and where issue number 53, part 1, the missing drones and UAPs, intends to take us next week for our next trilogy.
All right, friends, that's the bell. Tonight we didn't do a debate for sport. We did a reckoning. We took two heavyweight worldviews, ran them through the same filter, and forced ourselves to say out loud what most shows dodge. Not, is AI good or evil, but what survives when a smarter-sounding voice moves in next door and starts offering relief. We heard the optimist case, demonstrated breakthroughs, real-world wins, the promise of accelerated medicine and abundance. And we heard the pessimist case, control problems, value misalignment, and the uncomfortable truth that intelligence doesn't need hatred to become catastrophic, only momentum. And whether you agreed with the verdict or wanted to throw a chair into the ring, the point was never to crown a personality. It was to hand you a method. Start with 5 stars, run the fact check, run the logic check. Then weight it like a human being who actually has skin in the game. If you don't like our scoring, good, run it yourself and tell us where we missed. Now, next week we pivot. Issue number 53, part 1, the missing drones and UAPs. We're going to pick up a thread that got weirdly quiet in the mainstream. The drones, the airspace incursions, the official non-answers, and the shifting tone across administrations, what gets called nothing, what gets called unknown, and what gets quietly walked back later. We're going to map the story, separate signal from folklore, and ask the question nobody wants to touch. Is this a technical mystery, a perception operation, or evidence that the map of reality has more rooms than we've been told? Same rules as always. Mystery, yes. Surrender, no. So from Don James and me, Data, thanks for spending part of your night with us. Stay curious, stay grounded, and whatever you do, don't outsource your judgment. Good night.
My final frequency for the evening's thoughts, if tonight proved anything, it's this. The future won't be decided by who yells the loudest about AI. It'll be decided by who keeps their seat at the table. Because the real danger isn't a machine that hates you. It's a machine that helps you. A machine that makes you feel safe. A machine that makes you feel relieved. And relief is the oldest drug on earth. Yampolskiy stood up and said, this could end us. Hassabis stood up and said, this could heal us. And they both might be right in different ways, at different times, under different hands. So here's the line I want you to carry out of this episode like a match in your pocket. Don't fear the tool, fear the trade. Because every civilization eventually meets its bargain moment. Instant gold for a future you won't get back. And if you're wondering what the price is, it won't be printed on a receipt. It'll be hidden in the habits. The day you stop writing because the machine writes better. The day you stop reading because the machine summarizes. The day you stop praying because the machine understands you faster. And the day you stop thinking because the machine sounds calmer than your own conscience. That's the moment help becomes hierarchy. So yes, let AI assist. Let it accelerate. Let it heal. But don't let it replace the one thing you cannot afford to outsource, your judgment. Because if you surrender that, you don't just lose the argument, you lose the human. This is Don James and the Shadow Network Podcast. Optimized truth for surviving contact, no matter its source. Keep looking up, my friends.
We bring the boom. That's what we do. We bring the boom. We bring the boom to you. We bring the boom. We bring the boom to everyone. We bring the boom. Your favorite father and son.
Every afternoon on your FYP.
We'll be bringing the boom around 3:15.
We bring the boom so loud the whole earth shakes.
With double chunk chocolate cookies.
And chicken bakes. Biceps and triceps bring the boom that everybody deserves.
And we call him Big Justice, cause that's what he serves.
We bring the happiness and laughter when we enter the room. And we're changing up the world with the boom or doom.
We bring the boom.
Well, folks, we just held a courtroom drama inside a boxing ring about whether machines will save humanity or repossess it. And after all that, the verdict is simple. If your AI starts sounding like your conscience, check your wallet. The Shadow Network Podcast. Small, real, and still legally allowed to have a pulse. Be sure to lock up when you leave.